So, first thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to turn the UV on in the hood. So, generally speaking, someone before us, make sure the sash is all the way down. Someone before us will have used this hood. You don't know how clean or sterile their technique was, so you never want to trust whatever they left. So the first thing we'll do is we'll turn the UV on. Usually you want to leave that on for about 10 minutes. And then once we're done, we'll actually turn the hood on and wipe down the inside. The next thing, the other few things that we'll need will be one of these. So this is how we will actually store and grow cells. So these will actually sit inside here, which is our 37-degree incubator. And then here in our 4-degree fridge, we'll have the media that we use to actually grow the cells. Okay, so the media that we use for our MC3T3 cells, which are our mouse pre-osteoblasts, is the alpha MEM. Inside the alpha MEM, we could use a 10% characterized, which is the CH, FBS, which is fetal bovine serum. And so 2 of these at 25 mils apiece will go into this 500 ml bottle to create our 10% solution. The alpha MEM was taken from the fridge outside this door and right to the left. And then another thing that we will eventually need from there is a PBS solution, which will also, again, be in there. Okay, so what we'll do with these first is while we're getting everything else set up, we'll put these inside here. So this is just a water bath. So what that will actually do is it'll melt that a little faster for us, so that way we don't have to worry so much about that. And then the next thing we will do is we will go get our cells. Alright, so we're going to get our cells out of cold storage. So our cells here are in liquid nitrogen. This is super duper cold. We're talking like negative, like 156 degrees Celsius. So it's not something you're going to want to put your hand into. So what we're actually going to look for is, I believe, 4th. So our stuff should be in the 4th rack. Usually just pull it up and then just kind of let it drain so that way all of the liquid nitrogen, we try to keep as much in the tank as we can. So then you just pull this up. And our box should be 4I that we have ours in. And so here we have our MC3T3 cells, which were frozen on a specific date by me. So we'll take out 2 of these. We'll start 2 flasks today. One thing you definitely want to not do is hold those in your hand. Essentially, if these caps, especially the ones that thread on the outside, if on the off chance they leaked, if liquid nitrogen gets in there, liquid nitrogen expands really quickly, which means as you heat it in your hand, it's potentially going to explode, and people have actually lost fingers and things like that. So definitely don't hold those tight in your hand to thaw them. Put them in a water bath like we used earlier. Put that back in there. And we'll cap it. So then again, like I said earlier, to thaw them, we're just going to stick them in one of these racks here and stick them into the water bath. And we'll let that do the heating for us, and then we'll put the cap on just to make sure that on the off chance it does explode, none of us should get any shrapnel damage. Alright, so as you can see, our characterized FBS is thawed that we had in here. So the first thing that we're going to do before we get our cells out is to come in here. We'll move this stuff in here. Now these, especially having sat in that water, are actually probably really gross. That water is not changed very often, and so chances are there's something like a Loch Ness monster or something growing in there. So again, like most things, you're always going to want to wipe these down, just because you never want to take the risk that something in that water is going to contaminate your media, especially if it's a brand new bottle. You come back the next day and it's just cloudy. It's not going to make for a good day. So we'll put these in here. So on top here we should have a little plastic piece that will help keep any bacteria from entering the bottle. Let's see if I can do this without nails. There we go. So we'll just rip that off, and again, we never want to open the bottle outside the hood. It'd be very unsterile. So what we'll do is we'll uncap that, loosen the caps on these, and now what we're going to do is we're just going to pour.
Just a reminder, you got those vials from Cryo?
So those vials, yep, were actually in the -20 or the freezer part of the fridge that's next there. And they should all be labeled, again, with CH FBS, which again is characterized FBS. Some of them will say DFBS, that's called defined, which is slightly different than these. It's got a few different components. So you always want to make sure that you grab the CH, because that's the stuff that we actually use. These all go, anything we work with in here, anything that touches cells should always go in one of these biohazard boxes. That's just because nothing we work with should be pathogenic or should have any problems like that. But just in case, we always want to put it in there so that way we don't take any risks. And because it's required by law, if you guys get caught not doing that, we would probably be kicked out of here. So just make sure that you do that. So what I'm doing here is just mixing, just to make sure that the FBS gets kind of mixed all up in there. So I'll leave that as that. Here we have our new flask that will grow the cells in. So I'll come back over here to the water bath. Oops, and I'll actually need one more flask. So these in this plastic wrapper should, for the most part, be sterile. So we shouldn't have to wipe anything down with these. Put that guy in there. Okay, so we'll come back over here. These cells should now be thawed. Take these out of the rack, which they look good. Okay. And again, especially since these ones have been sitting in the water, actually, I'll wipe them out here. We'll actually wipe these down. You want to be careful not to make sure that you don't get any ethanol inside of it, which of course will kill your cells. But usually these ones, because we're going to be taking directly from out of this, and this has been sitting in that super gross water, we definitely want to wipe it down just in case. You don't want to transfer, again, any microbes into there. For the most part, we don't ever use antibiotics in our media, which means bacteria would love to grow in this just as much as your cells will. So you always want to make sure that you're being conscious of not contaminating and always thinking about where microbes might be on and what you can do to avoid that. So now that these are in here, what we'll do is we will add 10 mils apiece to each of these flasks. What I'll actually do is loosen these. Now, for teaching's sake, let's say I knock this into a wall or onto the floor here, pretty much into any surface in here. What you want to do is waste this and just get rid of it. So on the off chance there was bacteria on something that you hit, just throw it away. We'd rather waste the 5 cents that costs than all the time and effort you're going to put into trying to get these cells to grow. So if you ever touch something, if you ever feel like you might have touched something or, coughed on it or whatever, just throw it away and grab a new one. So then we will add the 10 mils to the other one. I'll throw that away. Okay, so now to get these out, because these are small amounts, I believe I froze them down at 1 mil into each one. We're actually going to use one of these, which is our 1 mil micro pipetter. So this can accurately pipette somewhere between 100 and 1,000 microliters, or 1,000 microliters is also equal to 1 mil. So what we're going to do is we're just going to spin this guy to 1 mil, which is set to 100. So that's 1 mil on this thing. Then what we'll do is we'll go to the blue tips. We'll uncap this. Pull up our cells. Now the cells, as they sat in here, may very well have kind of settled to the bottom. So very gently, you don't want to break the cells or shear them at all. very gently just kind of mix it up and down a couple times just to make sure that if there were any cells kind of sitting on the bottom that you're actually going to get those up. And there we go. So now I'll set this guy over here. And we'll just pipette right into the media. And then the next thing that we will need to do is label. So you always want to make sure that you do good labeling practices, just because, especially when we're working here in the microventure, we work in groups. So if someone comes in to check the cells, usually what I like to do is I like to have the initials of whoever took them out of the cryo. So we'll go my initials, which are DM. The cell line that you're working with, because especially now that we're starting to work with more cell lines, you always want to make sure that you're grabbing the right flask for the right experiment. And then usually what I like to do is write down the date, which today should be the 15th, and what I did. So today I seeded the cells, or another way of saying that would be I took them out of the liquid nitrogen. So what this tells whoever comes in next is that the last time these cells were worked with was on the 15th, and that is when they were put on here. When I talked about splitting, that would be, if I came in 2 days later, I'd write 9/17, the cells were split. So that way, if someone, again, comes in, little miscommunication, someone comes in, they can look and say, oh, these cells were split yesterday. I don't need to do it. So it's always a good thing to just kind of keep in mind, just make sure everything's labeled. Then what we'll do after that is we'll bring them over here to the incubator. Generally speaking, these two should be 5% CO2, which is important for us. So what we'll do is we'll actually put these in here. And then you just lay them down on their side. Give them a little slosh to make sure that the liquid's covering all of the grill surface. And then you should just be able to close it. And that's all there is to it.